Welcome to another webinar with Epoch's Spotlight on Employee Experience Experts. And today I'm so excited to be joined by Joey from Stack Overflow. So why we have these webinar series is because we know there's a lot happening within the employee engagement, employee experience space. Things are shifting fast. So we know there's a lot of innovative leaders like Joey that are doing incredible things and have great insights in terms of from Stack and from their own experiences. So really these webinars are to share learnings and spark conversations of interesting things that different companies and individuals are doing within the space. And again, super excited to be joined by Joey today. Joey has been an incredible partner to us at Epoch, especially with her incredible ideas and just passion behind employee engagement with a very specific lens behind enabling it through DEI. And I'll let Joey introduce herself later in a bit too. Today, what you'll be hearing from Joey is her thoughts on DEI, insights on intercultural development, how to really enable these programs within any company and how to get started, and much, much more. And as you all have questions along the way, please feel free to just drop it in the chat and we'll either get to it immediately if it's relevant or at the tail end of our conversation today. But with that, I'll stop sharing screen and we can dive right in. Joey, would love for you to introduce yourself.
Hello. I am Joey Randazzo. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the employee engagement specialist at Stack Overflow. I started Stack exactly a year ago. April 4th was my anniversary, and I was so excited to join Stack because it just has a great dynamic. I love the people that I work with, and I love the kind of work that I do here at Stack, supporting and developing our culture. So that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. Well, Joey, what's always interesting is to kick things off so the audience has an understanding of how you view this space and how you define employee engagement. So how do you think about it and what really draws you into it?
I think that for me, employee engagement is so nebulous, right? I feel like it's so hard to kind of put your finger on what it is exactly that builds that engagement, that makes you feel engaged at work. I think we've all had experience of working at places where, your manager's great, your coworkers are fine, but you just don't feel connected. It's just still not a good place. Just the vibe is just a little bit off. And it's more about employee engagement is kind of creating that vibe, having a vibe check, making sure that the people who are here, they're enjoying their time here and, feeling connected with the work that they do and the people that they work with.
Totally. Love that as well. We've seen some companies call their employee engagement teams like vibe managers. So it's definitely all about the vibe. But with that, Joey, as well, just so that everyone kind of has a bit of context of how employee engagement is prioritized and looks like at Stack, like what team is it under? And I guess like how big is the team and how big is the company?
Sure. Stack Overflow is growing tremendously as a company. When I first started, it was about 300 people, and now we're almost at 600. So almost doubled in the year that I've been here. And I think I fall under the DEIB calendar. I mean, the DEIB structure, which falls under our larger HR structure, which I think is a good place for us to live and to be in terms of getting connected with employees. And also when people come into the organization, they're able to, meet us first. Like we have our HR people meeting where people come in and we talk to them and tell them all about all of our resources here. And we also have a Finding Your Place event where we highlight all of our ERGs. So we all know the better that we feel connected to each other and to the work that we do, we just enjoy our space here. So that's why I think it's perfectly nestled under our people team, where the people team is here to support the larger organization.
Yeah, and Stack is remote first, right?
Correct. So it's really hard, I think, for a remote company to have a vibe,
Mm.
because it's not like when you like start a new job, right? So you like go in, you did the interview, it's your first day, you got all the swag that they, give you out. And then like you are walking around and you're just like, oh, that's a cute top, or oh, I love that band, or cute shoes, where'd you get them? And that's how you kind of build relationships, creating those relationships in person. In a totally remote environment, it's a lot harder to make those kinds of connections and to get to know people and to figure out where you fit in and how do your values and the way that you identify fits into the larger organization, which is the mission of our ERGs as well as our BRGs. So our ERGs are our employee resource groups, and our BRGs are our business resource groups. So our ERGs mostly focus on your personhood and how you identify. So that could be visible and invisible. So it could be like we have our API group, we have our B&B group, but we also have our MIND group that stands for mental illness and neurodiversity, which is an invisible thing, but obviously very, very important to someone's personhood. Our BRGs are more focused on, let's say, interests. So we have our running club, we have our book club, things like that. So you're still able to connect with people based on your interests and who you are. And we want to make sure that as many stackers as we have, that they have different levels of connections depending on how they feel.
That's amazing. I know you mentioned early too, any stacker or employee at Stack Overflow, they get introduced to the Find Your Place program or event. So how does that look like, and how was it introduced as well? I think that's such a great idea, especially in the remote world.
Sure. So we have our regular new hire orientations, which we've all had to sit through, and just like, here's our product, here's what we do, and blah 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 blah. No shade to anyone who has to do any of those, because I know how hard it can be. But the Finding Your Place, it's definitely one of those orientations as well, where it's myself leading it, and also we have all of our leaders of all of our ERGs. So just to recap our ERGs, we have our API ERG for our Asian Pacific Islander, our B&B for our Black and Brown, our LGBTQ+, our MIND for mental illness and neurodiversity, our MOXIE for women and underrepresented genders, and we also have an allyship ERG, which is our largest ERG for people who may not fit into those categories, but still want to be in an environment where they can learn and grow and understand what it's like to support and to elevate the voices of others and have a space where they can feel connected in that way. So we have all of our leaders from each ERG come in and they discuss member highlights, things that they're doing, things that are important to them, the mission of that ERG. And it also gives people an opportunity to say, hey, I'm Black, I'm a woman, I'm definitely going to join this ERG, or I'm none of those, but I definitely want to learn how can I stand up for someone who's experiencing something, and I want to say something, but I don't know how to support or how to, elevate or how to, protect and all those things. And therefore they'll join our allyship ERG. So it's a great way to get connected and to know everyone as soon as you're in the door.
Yeah, that's so wonderful to hear. It's such like a meaningful way to create connections. And there is a question, I think it's quite relevant to kind of throw it out there now, Joey, just to understand.
Sure.
Someone from the audience is wondering, do your BRGs get budget? And is there a handbook or some sort of framework on the difference between an ERG and BRG at Stack?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So is there a framework between our ERGs and our BRGs? Like I said, when they come in, usually within their first week or two, then we'll have our people team orientation where I mentioned it there, and also our Finding Your Place event. So that's how they'll know the difference between those two. All of our ERGs do have budget, and we provide them with budget because we make sure that the mission of each of our ERGs are connected to the larger mission of the organization, which I'll talk about more during our during the Epoch symposium in May. So basically, sneak.
I know, like,
Sneak
join us
that
if
in
you haven't
there.
registered already.
So basically, we like to think of all of our ERGs as when you come into an organization, you are a person, and there's things that you see and feel and experience as a person in your environment, and you're able to just see the world within a particular lens, no matter what that is, whether that's you being a parent, you being part of the LGBTQ plus community. There's so many things that work into your lens and how you experience the world. When you join an ERG, you find a community of people who have a similar experience or have that kind of connection with you, and you're able to have a community within Stack Overflow and with people who you can feel connected with. Based on that community, we tie those community interests into our larger Stack Overflow initiatives. So we look at our goals, our initiatives, and we ask all of our ERG leaders to think about how their particular lens, how their way of living, how their knowledge can tie into a bigger initiative. So a great example of that is we were doing a survey for our developers. We had our MIND ERG, stands for mental illness and neurodiversity. We had them take a look at the survey just because we just wanted to make sure that it was clear for someone who may have trouble understanding. The language was fine, the language was clear, they could definitely understand what was being asked of them. So we had our MIND ERG take a look at the survey, approve the survey before it went out to the larger community. That's a perfect example of how we took a company-wide initiative, we leveled up our ERG to support that, and we were able to present the company with something that was, even if you're not a part of the MIND group, you'll definitely have an easier time understanding it than if no one took a look at it, or no one was able to point out things that may be sensitive depending on access and ability. So that's how we leverage that. Oh no, there was a question about budget as well. Yes, we get money, but to be short, because we get money because we are definitely contributing to the larger initiatives of the company, and we make sure all of our ERG goals are perfectly in line with the goals of the organization. So I want to make it very clear that we try to not just be the party planning committee or the fun time committee, that we are truly a business need. And just imagine how someone who doesn't have that lens of neurodiversity, how someone could read something wrong or not understand it, and it'd be terrible, or the language being off, or a word that is used is offensive, and there's no way to know unless you're a part of that community necessarily. So we tie all of our goals and objectives to the larger organizational goals. I hope that answered all parts of the question.
They also asked if BRGs receive budget, and is there kind of a different prioritization when you think about BRGs and ERGs within Stack?
Yes and no. It depends what the BRGs and ERGs need and want. So we have an overarching budget for all, and we are doing a special program this year where we're having a third party come in and support our ERGs. It's a pilot program, so not all of our ERGs are getting this special training and development for people who are a member of Moxie, are underrepresented genders, BMB, LGBTQ, and API as well. So their needs are more than, let's say, the book club, where we read one book a month. So it's more about need. And if the book club is thinking about doing something bigger or splashier, or getting an author in, you didn't hear from me, but I hope not, because that's a lot of money. But depending on what their need is, we try to kind of accommodate as much as we possibly can with the budget.
Totally. Thank you, Joey, for answering that. And that's super helpful just to contextualize for everyone the difference between an ERG and BRG. And I know one thing that is super interesting about Stack is how engaged the ERGs are. And you all have a few things that I thought was super interesting when you told me, like in terms of the election process and changing over leadership, all that stuff. So maybe to kick things off, like how are ERGs created within Stack and how do you sustain them?
That's a great question. So our ERGs, for the most part, when I started, they were already here, most of them. I started the allyship ERG.
Cool.
So I think that it's more about need and if someone approaches me. So if someone says, hey, I want to start an ERG, I'm very interested in this particular thing, or it's part of my identity and personhood. So we have some core requirements where you have to have at least 10 members to start, and at least 5 of those members have to be part of a leadership team. So we have our chair, our co-chair, and 3 members of the leadership team at minimum to start.
Oh, cool.
And there is a process of creating a charter. So let us know what you plan on doing with your ERG, how you plan on connecting your goals with our larger goals of our organization. And there's an application process where you would tell me, here's what I plan on doing. Here's kind of events that I would like to do. Here's the kind of support that I would like to give to my community. All those parameters help guide people to starting ERGs. So a lot of times the paperwork alone discourages some people because they're just like, wow, this is a lot of work. And which definitely happens. But we're launching our new caregivers and parents ERG because that's a large network of people. We're launching them at the end of this month, which is a larger community, and they definitely had the people, the support, the goals, how they plan on tying them into our larger network. So they have all of that. So for our smaller groups who don't have the numbers, but definitely are committed to having something for them. So we have our ERG plus A. A stands for annex. So our annexes are smaller groups with a smaller commitment. The only thing an annex need is a chair who will feed into a larger ERG. So our largest ERG allyship has an annex called Native and Indigenous People. So that ERG annex is a lot smaller. All they have is a Slack channel where they get together, a couple of monthly meetings, and that's about it. So it's a lighter lift for a smaller community that we have at Stack. But the moment that they have more people, they have a bigger network, and they're able to drive more engagement or speak to something directly to our larger organization, they could definitely become a full ERG. We also have the same thing with our caregivers and parents. Originally, that was solo parents was the ERG when I first started here, but there wasn't that many solo parents and there were more parents and caregivers. So we turned the solo parent into an annex and we created the caregivers and parents. Caregivers first, because we want to make sure that not everyone's a parent, but some people are taking care of, adults, parents, all kinds of people. So we don't want to just limit it to just parents because we can all be caregivers as well.
That's so great. It's probably very effective. Well, not probably. As you see, it's effective to have those different frameworks and expectations given the different sizes. And it's also interesting that you provide so much, I guess, like upfront guidance to also manage expectations of people that are starting it because it is work to sustain it afterwards too. So it's really getting that ownership upfront. But I guess, Joey, do people come to you when they want to start an ERG, or like, what if you're like, there's a lot of Asians at my company. I feel like we should have an Asian ERG, but you're not Asian, for example, maybe like
Absolutely.
how does
We
that
have
happen?
people who don't,
Yeah.
we absolutely have people who don't necessarily fit into ERG. Like there's a lot of people who have, maybe they're raising Black children and they're not Black themselves, but they have family members and they want to learn more and they want to, participate in the conversation. So we definitely have an opportunity for them to join ERGs. You don't have to be a specific kind of, you can be multiracial, you can, be raising a child. If for mind, you don't necessarily need to come in with your paperwork of here's my here's my mental illness, here's proof that I'm neurodivergent. Like you don't have to have those things. But there's a lot of people who want to start ERGs. There was someone who approached me, they wanted to start an ERG for people who are struggling with grief. Grief is a human emotion. It's something that we all have to deal with, especially in these terrible times, us surviving the panini and just like having to deal with all of these things that we're constantly dealing with. And how do we deal with these huge events, these huge cultural events, these huge life events, and just keep on going to work? Like, how do we, focus on our deliverables when we're afraid for our children and for our lives and for our safety and for our health? So it's definitely a need, but we like to start things off slowly and small. So that person is going to have a annex first. And then once it gains momentum and there's more people who join and there's more things that we can do for it and, promote our services that we have, then I'm sure that ERG is going to grow, that annex is going to grow into a full ERG, but it's more about finding a place for them. So if someone comes up to me and says, hey, I want to start an ERG for something, or even a BRG, they approach me. One thing about the DEIB team, we love our documentation. There's docs on docs on docs. So we're very happy to forward them information. And does this fit your needs? Like, is this something that you can do? Is this something that you could be consistent with? Especially for the first year. The first year is definitely the hardest. The creating it and lifting it is definitely the hardest part. But once it gains momentum, it does get easier. Once you find more people to join the group or to support the group however they see fit, it gets a lot easier. So I think it's more important to think about what's the need. Is it just something that you need, you're just looking for a group, or is it something that we can all benefit from? And making sure that you go through the process as everyone else, that it's not just a quick start. You just become an ERG just for funsies.
What if, like, how would you advise someone that's like on the people team and they've been tasked to just start the ERG initiative within their company, but no employee has been really pining over starting one quite yet? How would you tackle that?
That's so hard to like start from
Yeah.
scratch. But I think that for me, when I first started, starting the allyship ERG was super important to me, because there's certain things that I want to support, but I don't feel like I have the right tools. I don't have the right language. I don't know how to approach it. I don't know how to do it. So I think it's more important to say, hey, I don't know how. This is definitely something that we can all learn from. Hopefully, we all see ourselves as allies in some way. We all step up if we see someone hurting or in pain in some way. And creating that allyship to begin with, creating that ERG is definitely a step in the right direction. And I think the best thing to do to start is documentation. Make sure your goals are clear. Make sure you know, who do you plan on leading? How do you plan on structuring? Who's involved in this? What happens when you have to sunset an ERG, which happens at times too. Sometimes ERGs just no longer serve their purpose. And they have to be sunsetted as well. So what does that look like? What happens when leaders are, no longer with the company? They may leave, things happen. Can this ERG stand with no one holding it up? And if it could, go for it. You got it.
And I think that leads us to a great question someone put in the Q&A section, which is, what role does the chair and leadership play in the ERGs/BRGs?
So our chairs are mostly, so the chair is the one that's creating all of the programs. We just had our election, so I'm walking all of our chairs and co-chairs through finding our corporate goals, finding something that connects with them that they could speak to, that they could work towards for the year. So chairs are the ones that create the landscape for the group moving forward. So last year, a lot of our chairs focused more on knowledge sharing. They focused on membership participation, and they focused heavily on events and, trying to get as many people into as many things, events being volunteering as well. So we had ERGs volunteering outside the organization, planning things that they could do together. We had people focusing on the knowledge sharing specifically. Like I mentioned, mine is very big, very active on making sure that all of the documentation that we have is as inclusive as possible. So creating those kind of parameters, figuring out where is this ERG going to be a year from now. So that's what the chairs kind of focus on. The co-chairs and myself, we work very closely to figure out what the budget is. How much money would this team need to get all the things that they would like to get done? And for me, I would like to focus more on not just having events during that group's necessary month. So every February, I don't want February to be the only month that we're doing something with Black history, or June is the only month that we're focusing on highlighting pride and things like that. I want to make sure that we do more things throughout the year that highlight everyone's identity, because you are yourself your entire year. So that's what the chair says. The leadership team, usually they're the ERG hype man. They're the ones who are telling people on their team outside of the ERG. They're the ones who are getting new people into it. They're the ones promoting things, putting things in the Slack channel. So the leadership team are kind of the hype men and the idea people of how to reach those goals that the chair and the co-chair set.
Amazing. And we have, wow, so many questions coming in for you today, Joey. There's two other ones, but before we dive into one of them that's relevant for this topic right now, could you tell everyone about the election process? Because I find that fascinating to get that level of ownership and buy-in across the company and for the leaders of the ERGs.
Yes. We have the election process started because there were some ERG leaders who were pretty much tired of being leaders. They've been the leaders since the inception, and they're exhausted, which I think is fair enough, because everyone has their full-time job, right? So we have the election process. It's usually a 3 to 4 week process. The first week, we send out a survey to say, hey, do you want to be a leader? Here's what it involves. Nominate yourself or someone else, and we put it in all the Slack channels, and everyone nominates themselves or someone else for each position, either chair, co-chair, or leadership. And at that point, we reach out to those individuals and say, hey, you were nominated for this, that, or the third, or just this. How do you feel? Do you want to take it on? With this past election, a lot of people, there was a lot of yikes. I don't know if this seems like a lot. I appreciate it. But that nomination process usually comes with a lot of me saying, hey, I'm here to support everything that you need. you were nominated for a reason. You're probably very active in the channel, very active in the group, and your peers see you as a leader, so you should definitely go for it, like full throttle. You got this. And then usually with a little nudging, they usually accept the nomination. And then at that point, we run the election for a week. They're able to say, hey, here I am. I like to do these things. I could see this for our ERG moving forward. I'm super excited about the year to come, what have you. And then we do the elections, nominate when everyone's nominated, we do the elections, and we tell the winners, hey, you're a winner. Here's a new format. So we have the chairs, the co-chairs, the leadership team, and they start a new Slack channel. And I have a meeting where I catch everyone up on all the things the previous year did, things to do for this year, and try to like get everyone all revved up. Actually on Monday, I meet with all of our new leaders and I walk them through how to connect their own goals to our company's larger goals. So each week we kind of go over like what to do, like how to connect your goals, how to work with budget, all those things.
That's incredible, Joey. And I think such a pro tip for the audience as well, in terms of like a lot of these folks are just volunteering. They still have their full-time job. So it's really encouraging to have someone like you as their cheerleader, but also just giving them the frameworks and equipping them with that space to connect with each other.
That's the hardest part, to like get people like really into it, because they're just like, this is gonna be a lot. I'm just like, I'm here for you the whole time. If you need any help.
Exactly. It's like you keep the momentum, but also like a lot of people are like, I don't know if I can do it. But it's like, yeah, like you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that, I think that dives nicely into one of the questions. Diamond, I see your question in as well in terms of employee engagement. We'll wrap up, or like at the later part of our conversation, talk more about that. But in terms of Letitia's question, she says that they're in the process of developing a neurodiversity ERG. So what are some tips / best practices should they think about in starting this type of community?
I think the best practice of starting any is to have the numbers, because you want to make sure that it's able to sustain itself. So it can't just be 2 people who identify as, and that's it. So make sure that you are able to have people interested in actually joining. Second thing is, when we launch, we usually do, when we launch at ERG, we usually do like a splashy AMA where we talk about how support within the community has helped those people. So the people who are asking to start this or to join this, I would ask them if they feel comfortable sharing their own diagnoses, feelings, emotions about what it's like having a mental illness or being neurodivergent in this space, in this landscape, and making sure that they have the tools that they need. How do they find support? How does having community help support them? And I think once people see someone like, oh, I also struggle with that. I'm also exhausted at the end of the day because I'm masking in every meeting, and like this box is so small and I feel like I'm all face. So when you like have those kind of conversations, and people feel way more relaxed and more seen. So I think that it's more making sure that people know that it's a safe space, and it's a place where you can truly find community. And I think that's the core of all of our ERGs, because it's community first. It's finding people who identify with you and are in community with you. I hope that answers your question.
And we'll also share notes with everyone afterwards in terms of Joey's structure of like X number of like leaders or whoever to join to get started, because I think that's so tangible, Joey, and so helpful. Because often, to your point, 2 people might join up and like start an ERG, but could easily lose steam, which is not the point.
And it's always great to have documentation also. Like I am definitely someone that needs rules so that I could know like what is supposed to happen, what are we supposed to have, how can I get this started. I really love having rules and parameters to kind of get my mind around doing things. So we love documentation here.
Amazing. And oh my gosh, time is flying, Joey. We're almost hitting time. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
know with that, 2 or 3 more questions in terms of kind of what we alluded to in the beginning. You're hosting this incredible managing ERG workshop at our Employee Experience Symposium plug in May. Could you tell people kind of high level the structure you use, the WIFU, WIFM, WIFO, and kind of just preview it for people in terms of, in your own words, how that framework's helpful?
Sure thing. So my whole shebangle is about leveraging your ERGs to speak directly to your organizational goals. So I structured it into 3 different parts. So we have the with them, the what's in it for me, where we identify ourselves and our own goals and our own lens and how we experience the world. Anyone who has siblings can tell you, you could be in the same space and have very different experiences. So very different lifestyle, like understanding of how the world works. So that's the with them. The what's in it for me is understanding how can I bring my own particular lens into an organization and how I view the world to help the organization. The WIFU, what's in it for us, is the how can we take everyone's individual identity and create a community, create a space where we could feel comfortable and safe and have a place where we can, the vibe is right, because it doesn't matter. I think we've all had that experience where we go into some place and it just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel right. And we need to understand what's in it for us, how bringing our own authentic selves into work can make us have a community and create that culture that we so desperately need to feel safe as humans. And then with that, once we discover what's in it for us, we think about what's in it for the organization. How can we use that lens, that community, that sense of understanding to speak directly to the organization's goals? Because I feel like there's so many things. We've all been in organizations where they completely missed the mark, where someone is showing us a slide and we're just like, who put this together? Or like, did anyone else look at this? Because of our experiences, because we know that how this is in this room is not going to be the same thing in another room. So how can organizations leverage the knowledge, the experience, the understanding of their ERGs to hit their goals, make their marks, keep the right people, and attract the best people? So that's it.
Amazing. That's such a great framework. Someone even asked, can we share the presentation afterwards? I'm going to say yes, we'll be sharing learnings and just high level takeaways from Joey's amazing presentation happening in May.
Yes.
But Joey, I know we're hitting time soon, so I know we have a few questions in terms of employee engagement, and Diamond here was wondering, how do you prioritize employee engagement needs within the company?
That's a big one.
I know. I was like, we can start very high level, see how we want to tackle that one.
You're gonna end with that one, Jade? Like, I feel like
no, that will not be regular. I mean, take this one any direction we want. I guess you personally, Joey, I know you talked a little bit about what employee engagement means for you.
Right.
So how does that play within a company?
I think employee engagement is so hard to put your finger on what it is that drives an organization, what it is that makes people want to stay and feel engaged and feel empowered in their roles. A lot of times, I think the quick fix, which we've all known from previous jobs where it was just like give people money or like, vacation time or whatever. And those things just aren't going to cut it in this new landscape. So I think it's important to kind of know what it is that's important to your people and highlight those things. So you could be in an environment where work-life balance is very important, where you want to make sure that people have the space to work when and how they can and what works best for them. So highlighting that can definitely drive engagement more so than, an organization that's just like, hey, we're a 9-to-5 company. That's all we do. That's the structure and you have to stick by it. So that's obviously some people may love it and that might work great for some people. So it's more about learning about what it is that drives your organization. And there's no way to learn that without doing surveys and asking people what it is that they want, what's important to them. When we did our engagement survey last year, before I started, one of the key takeaways was people wanted to do more learning and development days. So we created our Learn, Share, Grow days, which are 4 hours each quarter, 4 hours each month that is focused on learning and development. So we have 4 hours for personal development, 4 hours for department and division development, and we have 4 hours for company-wide development. So for our company-wide development in November, we had a speaker come in from our parent company, come in and talk to us about the struggles that she has or deals with. For our individual development, we offer learning tools and we highlight programs that you might want to start or books you might want to read, but that's part of your job. So you're not taking away from your job from doing that. And for our department and division ones, sometimes we have speakers, sometimes we have events. So it depends on what works best for that department and for that division. So that works best for us. It was a huge success and continues to be a huge success. And we saw our engagement numbers in terms of learning and development skyrocket in this year's engagement survey. So I think that it's more about figuring out what works best for your team, what works best for your company. If you ask, they'll tell you.
I love that. And Joey, for you, like what's exciting and energizing for you that you're seeing within the space of employee engagement, DEI programs? Like, yeah, you've been in it through so many iterations.
It's wild to me. Like I've had so many jobs and pivots in my career. So like it's hard to just like pinpoint one thing. I think I definitely as a geriatric millennial, I feel like I was always told that just have a job that you love. You'll never work a day in your life, which is like not really true because you'll just end up broke. So I think the most important thing for me is thinking about the job that I have, which I really enjoy, but it definitely motivates me to learn more, to figure out what other people are doing, how people are, creating ERGs and BRGs in their own organization, like learning how to, elevate the people that we have here. How do we properly create communities here? So I think it's more about finding something. The thing that truly excites me is finding things that I never thought of a year ago that I'm just like, oh, that's amazing. I'm going to do that now. So that always excites me.
And Joey, to wrap things up, a lot of people in the audience today and even the chat were just raving about your energy. And it's such a hard job though, what you do, right? It's so people facing. You're really the cheerleader of the entire culture of the organization. So how do you, Joey, stay creative and excited?
It's seriously the gift and the curse. It's just naturally who I am. I feel like if I had to put this on every day, I don't think I could do it. But I think that it's just naturally something that I've always done to some degree. Like, I like to tell the story that I remember, like, I used to work a retail job that was like the pits. So I decided to like, one day I told everyone, like, you know what? We're all calling out. We're going to Six Flags. And literally, like, everyone who worked on the first floor went to Six Flags. Like, we all met up there. We were just like, who's
That's
going to work? Like,
hardcore.
and not just like the like sales associate. I'm talking sales associate, talking managers. I'm talking the cleaning staff. I'm talking the stock guys. Like, everyone who worked on the first floor. I was just like, we're doing this Six Flags on Thursday. Call out. Let's do this. And it was just like, I didn't expect as many people to show up, but they all did. So I feel like if I had to tell 22-year-old Joey, like, that's a thing. Like,
Yes,
that's a job.
that's a
You
real
could
job. Yeah,
do
literally
this.
rallying people and just like building that
Yeah,
community.
I don't know. It's just what it is. It's just something that, like, I didn't know that employee engagement could be a job,
Yeah.
honestly. And it just kind of like fell into it, and it just kind of works for who I am.
And
So
last question, Joey, to wrap up then. Any parting words for the audience today?
I didn't think of anything to begin with. Have fun with what you're doing. Like, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be engaging. It's supposed to be a good time. If it's pulling teeth and you hate every minute of it and you just can't get it together, maybe it's not for you. So I feel like it's okay to just walk away from things. There's nothing wrong with saying this isn't working and let's try something new. So that's how you do anything in life. It's how you do everything in life. So sometimes you got to put stuff down.
Love that, Joey. Yeah, we hear that a lot too. Sometimes it's not you, it's just the culture, and that's so within the company that you just got to step away.
It happens. Don't feel bad. Just walk away.
Amazing. Well, with that, Joey, thank
So
you.
nice.
Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, this was an incredible conversation. We're going to wrap up. And Joey, if people want to find you, how can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Definitely. Please hit me up immediately. And email me. I think is my email here. I'll just share it. And also in the Epoch Slack, I'm on there. You can definitely find me. And that's it. I'm around. You'll find me.
Amazing. Yes, we'll be sharing Joey's contact info with everyone shortly. I know we also didn't get through all the Q&As, which thank you again, everyone, for being so engaged. And I know Joey's incredible, so you can always reach out and ask her any questions directly. And if you all ever want to chat more about anything that Joey talked about today, or anything just in terms of employee engagement, always feel free to reach out. I'm always open to getting on a quick call to share learnings from incredible people like Joey.